All right, we'll call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Show Low for June 13th, 2017. The roll call shows all commissioners present. I'll do the invocation this evening, and the pledge will be done by Commissioner Behrens. Will you all please rise? Our Heavenly Father, as always, we look forward to coming together to discuss issues that are important to the citizens of our wonderful community. We ask for your guidance as we work through the issues involved in these discussions, and that you guide us to the proper decision. We ask that you, if it be your will, provide us with some moisture, which is so sorely needed, and help us with abatement of the winds that can typically cause us such severe problems this time of year. We also ask that you stand with the first responders and the members of the armed services that are deployed and supporting us so well. And we ask all of these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, as usual, we have no old business on the agenda for this evening, so we'll proceed directly to the first item of new business in front of us, which is consideration of conditional use permit 602-04-195 submitted by American Integrity LLC to allow vehicle repairs located at 1641 East Deuce of Clubs, that being assessor's parcel number 210-24-073. Ms. Factor-Carter.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. American Integrity LLC has submitted a conditional use permit, or CUP, to allow vehicle repairs located at 1641 East Deuce of Clubs, that being APN 210-24-072. The subject property was previously utilized as an auto body repair shop. However, the subject property has not been utilized for several years for that particular use. The subject property is currently zoned C2, which is general commercial. City code requires a CUP for vehicle repairs with overnight storage in the C2 zone. The applicant has submitted a site plan which has been attached for your review. The current zoning of the surrounding properties includes to the north, south, east, and west C2 general commercial. The current land uses of the surrounding properties includes to the north Snowy River Motel, to the south vacant commercial, to the east commercial shopping center, and to the west the Downtown 9 Motel. Transmittal memos were sent to all affected agencies and no comments were received. The property was posted and letters were sent out to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. No comments were received. After reviewing the standards for review, the zoning ordinance, discussions with the applicant, and because the request is consistent with the City of Show Low general plan, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve conditional use permit 602-0415 submitted by American Integrity LLC to allow vehicle repairs located at 1641 East Deuce of Clubs, that being APN 210-24-073, subject to the following conditions. 1. All development shall comply with all applicable federal, state, and local requirements, including building permit and sign requirements. Parking and lighting shall meet requirements of Section 15-146 of City Code. Any outdoor storage, including vehicles, shall be screened by a solid material fence 6 feet in height. And 4, this conditional use permit is non-transferable. Staff as well as the applicant are available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Factor-Carter. We'll begin this evening with questions for staff.
Mr. Chairman, I just wondered, Mr. Tragaskis, what's historically been I know this building sat vacant for a little bit of time, but what's historically been the type of commercial use of this building in the past?
As stated by Commissioner Clark, the building has been vacant for a fairly substantial period of time. There has been some construction that took place on the property, mainly to remove a portion of the building. Prior to the building being vacant, it was utilized as a auto body shop, is my understanding. And it was utilized for that for a fairly substantial period of time.
Okay. Further questions of staff? Commissioner Adams? No?
I have one for applicant. I have a couple questions for the applicant.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, before we get there, I'd like to make a clarification on staff recommendation number 3, which reads, any outdoor storage, including vehicles, shall be screened by a solid material fence 6 feet in height. When we look at the aerial for the property, the property line to the east, adjacent to Little Caesars, that's a fairly substantial retaining wall. So there would be no fencing requirements along that side. The property line along the west, adjacent to 16th Place, there is also a block wall, retaining wall along that property line. The above grade, above the storage area, the fence is not 6 feet in height at that location. However, because of the change in grade, you have the same effect. And the property line along the south is a chain link fence. City code does allow you to use vegetation as a screening. In reviewing that property, it's fairly well vegetated with trees and things along that side. Where we're concerned about would be the entryway gate leading into the storage area. Our recommendation would be that is where they would put a solid material type fence along that gate. We have spoke to the property owner's representative who is here, Mr. John Otis. He indicated that that really wouldn't be a problem. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you for questions of the applicant.
All right, sir. Thank you for the clarification. Would you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Thomas Crowther. I'm a co-owner at American Integrity Automotive LLC. And I stand as a serving representative of this corporation. And I would just like to have the opportunity to address any concerns that any of you might have.
Okay.
I have a
Commissioner
couple
Adams?
questions, Mr. Chairman.
Go, sir.
I do live down that road. I'm not right next to this, but I do live down that road, and I just have a couple questions. My questions come from a previous a man who lives down there and has lived down there for a long, long time. And so the two concerns that he had, the one was hours that should be operating, and would it be late hours? Would there be noise from the shop? And the other question and concern that he really had was in the past when it was an auto body, they used that road as parking and traffic, and that road's not very good. It's not very wide. And so those are the two concerns that he had from previous occupancy of that building. And so I'd like you to address those for me if you would.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Absolutely, at this time, we are operating and have every intention of operating from 8 to 5 o'clock p.m. And that includes all activity at the building. And for the second concern, there is no way that I or any of my other colleagues that are employed there or hold any standings in that company would allow anyone of any nature to park any vehicles down a side street, only strictly in our property and where it is accessible to other customers and to people. We have people that need to turn around in that lot. They come through and they think it's a through driveway because it's kind of a strange setup there along the front side of the building that runs parallel with the Deuce of Clubs. Some people prefer to, they pull in and they decide they don't want to back out. They'll drive off the curb. That's up to them. It's their vehicle. It's up, but there's absolutely no way that we would allow any parking at all on a side street regardless of which street it is. That's not on our property. And as of right now, and for what I can see going in the future, that we will not be operating after 5 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner, Vice Chair Robertson.
Hi.
Hi.
I just, to clarify, that's, how many days a week will you be operating?
6 days a week, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to 2.
Very much.
Further questions for applicant? Right, any further questions for staff? All right, seeing none, we'll open it for public comment if there is any on this particular issue. If there is, will you please stand and come forward and identify yourselves for the record? All right, seeing none, then we'll bring it back to the commission for a motion. Commissioner Bennett.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make the motion. I'll move to approve the conditional use permit 602-04195 submitted by American Integrity LLC to allow vehicle repairs located at 1641 Exclusive Clubs. That being assessor parcel T10-24073, subject to staff recommendations. I think it's a great opportunity for, a building that's been closed down on the Deuce Clubs. It's our main drag for economic development. I think this falls within our general plan, and I welcome you to the community. I hope you all the best of luck. So.
And I second that.
Okay, do we want to address the fencing issue? Do we need to do that?
The fencing, I think, is addressed with the condition as it's written. I just wanted to make that clarification about which area we were specifically referring to.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously. Disclaimer, sir?
Yes, as always, there is a 7-day appeal period for any conditional use permit. If no appeal is received by the city clerk within those 7 days, this conditional use permit will be considered effective. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good
Thank you all
luck.
very much.
All right, moving along. We now have consideration of approval of a preliminary development plan for the Bison Golf Villas. Ms. Fechtelkotter, will you please illuminate us?
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Gary Martinson has submitted a preliminary development plan for a 10-lot, 5-building twin home subdivision called Bison Golf Villas. The gross area of the proposed subdivision is approximately 2.31 acres with minimum lot size of 0.05 acres, average lot size of 0.05 acres, and maximum lot size of 0.05 acres. In addition, there's an existing twin home building on lots 5 and 6. This development is zoned PUD, which is Planned Unit Development. A previously submitted development plan on the subject property called Estate Villas at Bison Crossing was approved by the council on December 5th, 2006. The 2005 in your staff summary report was a error, so it's December 5th, 2006. That final development plan was never recorded with the county. Final development plans expire if they are not recorded with the county within 1 year of council approval. The preliminary development plan for the estate villas at Bison Crossing called for a 12-lot, 6-building twin home subdivision. The preliminary development plan for the Bison Golf Villas indicates an existing practice green where the 2 additional lots were originally located. Staff has reviewed the preliminary development plan and found it has met all requirements of city code. The subject property meets all underlying zoning requirements of the PUD. The current zoning of the surrounding properties includes, to the north, R115, which is single-family residential, manufactured homes excluded, 15,000 square feet. To the south, R115, which is single-family residential, 7,000 square feet. To the east, R115, single-family residential, manufactured homes excluded, 15,000 square feet. And to the west, R115 and PUD, which again is Planned Unit Development. The current land uses of the surrounding properties includes, to the north, Sholo Golf and Country Club Estates. To the north is Show Low Country Club Estates. To the south is Show Low Golf and Country Club Estates. To the east is Show Low Country Club Estates. And to the west is Bison Golf Course and Show Low Country Club Estates. Transmittal memos were sent to all affected agencies and no comments were received. No public comment has been received regarding the proposed development. After reviewing the findings of facts, discussions with the applicant, the City of Show Low Planning and Zoning and Land Ordinances, the City of Show Low General Plan, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the submitted preliminary plat subject to the following conditions. All development shall apply with all applicable federal, state, and local requirements. 2, public sewer and water lines within the development shall have dedicated public easements. 3, drainage ways, including basins and culverts, shall be designated as private drainage easements. A fence similar in construction to the existing fence along Old Linden Road shall be extended along the south subject property at Old Linden Road and along the northern property line adjacent to the existing residential areas. 5, a burial suitable to the applicant and city shall be constructed along North 36th Drive in order to ensure proper access to the property is maintained. 6, the unit shall be single-story, owner-occupied. No timeshares or fractional ownership is allowed. 7, landscaping meeting the requirements of section 15-167 shall be installed along North 36th Drive. And 8, all development of Bison Golf Village shall be in substantial conformance to the submitted preliminary development plan and Bison Crossing master. Staff, as well as the applicant, are available for questions.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. We'll begin this segment with, as always, with questions for staff. No questions?
So it'll be how many condos then?
There'll be, let me skip over to here. So this is the submitted preliminary development plan. You can see there are a total of 10 units, but there's actually only 5 buildings. So these would be twin homes. They do own an actual physical piece of property in conjunction with the twin home, as opposed to a condo where really you just own a box of air contained within common walls. Originally, this plat showed 12 units with 6 buildings. The missing building was over here in the existing practice green area. They've now chosen to delete that building. So rather than 6 buildings, 12 units, we're now referring to 5 buildings with 10 units. 1 building is already constructed. It was previously used, at least for a while, as the clubhouse for the golf course. The clubhouse is now moved over to the Bison Preserve area, and this will revert back to homes. One item that they are requesting that you'll see on this plan is the option to construct enclosed garages. And you can see those. These are in these squares here. They did lengthen the parking area in order to help accommodate those buildings. It's not a guarantee that they're going to build them. That's just an option that they have should the purchasers of the buildings choose to exercise that. So this was approved again previously. It just never was recorded. And so we have to go back through the process now to get that plat approved and recorded so that they can begin construction on the units here.
Commissioner Bishop.
The existing building that's there, would that be the future units 5 and 6, or?
Yes, you can see buildings 5 and 6. There's actually, they put the footprint of the building inside of those boxes so that you can see how the building itself actually fits in there. That is the building that has been constructed. It would be similar also in the remaining buildings, would be similar to that as far as construction and materials, that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Robertson.
Mr. Tregaskis, when they own, or if they purchase one, if they decide that they're going to have the garage, then do they also own that little tiny piece that's their garage?
That I don't know has been worked out. I would believe so, yes.
Okay, that's interesting, okay.
Or it would be, I guess, together with, if it were built for the specific unit, they would own the unit together with
With
the share of the,
okay.
with the, yeah, with the.
They may also just choose to rent them, and you could rent them month to month. And if it was vacant, then somebody else could rent it. And they have a couple options there.
All right, I was just wondering if that was part of how this would be laid out. Thank you.
Other questions for staff? Commissioner Adams?
I guess it's directed to staff, and so who would, in this case, the property owner of that unit would take care of just the inside? I'm just making sure I'm clarified on this. And then the outside would be taken care of by, and the grounds and stuff like that.
Everything that you see as defined as Tract A, that is the area outside of these building footprints. That's common area, so that would be maintained by the HOA. The actual units themselves would be maintained by the individual property owners in conjunction with the CC&Rs and deed restrictions and things that are in place on the property. Obviously, if one of them starts looking a little rough, it'd be up to the HOA to encourage them to fix it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's my only concern on that, is sometimes you see them get run down over years. So,
Further questions? Commissioner Clark?
The original one wasn't recorded. Is that a question for the applicant, or is that, do you know? the answer?
I'm not sure as to the exact reason why it wasn't recorded.
Ask Mr. Martinson.
You want to ask the applicant?
Yeah, whenever he's ready to come up.
Okay. Mr. Martinson, would you come forward and identify yourself for the record, please?
Afraid you're going to ignore me again, but Chairman, Commissioners, staff, my name is Gary Martinson, 2051 Bison Ridge Trail. Obviously I've been around this project for the last 12 years, so I know it fairly well. So what was the question that was asked? I missed it.
How come the previous final plat that was approved that had the 12 units and 6 buildings on it, how come it wasn't recorded at the recorder's office?
You know, we got kind of delayed because our intent always was to move the pro shop, over to the Bison Crossings in 2005, 2006. We never were able to complete the development of that Bison Parkway, until 2008. And then there's something happened there in 2008 that kind of threw a clinker in everything we were doing. So, but that was really the reason. In fact, you asked the question, and I'm a little bit surprised why wouldn't we record it, even though that was we needed it temporarily to keep the golf course up and running.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Further questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Any remaining questions for staff? Oh, all right, and we'll open it for public comment. If anybody has any input on this, you're welcome to come forward now and state your case. And seeing no one, we will close the public comment and bring it back to the Commission for a motion.
I move to approve the preliminary development plan for the Bison Golf Villa, subject to the conditions of approval specified by the staff, and forward the recommendations to the city council.
I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Do we have comments, sir?
This has been scheduled for review by the city council at their next regularly scheduled meeting, which is a week from tonight.
Thank you, sir. All right. Item number C of new business this evening is consideration of approval of preliminary development plan for Dakota 5 at Bison Ridge. Ms. Spector.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Gary Martinson has submitted a preliminary development plan for a 5-lot subdivision called Dakota 5 at Bison Ridge. The gross area of the proposed subdivision is approximately 1.4 acres with minimum lot sizes of 0.21 acres, average lot size of 0.29 acres, and maximum lot size of 0.45 acres. The development is zoned PUD, which is Planned Unit Development. Staff has reviewed the preliminary development plan and has found that it met all requirements of city code. All proposed lots of this subdivision abut an accepted city street, which is Bison Ridge Trail. There's an existing home already built on what will be lot 1 of this subdivision. The proposed preliminary development plan for Dakota 5 at Bison Ridge shows 20-foot street side setbacks and 35 rear setbacks for all lots. Lots will have 8-foot side setbacks except for lot 5, which shows a 30-foot setback along the southern property next to Tract A of the Heights at Bison Ridge. Staff was contacted by a representative of the Bison Ridge Homeowners Association, or HOA, with concerns that the proposed plat does not meet the requirements of the conditions, covenants, and restrictions for Bison Ridge. Upon further research, city staff cannot find any record that the proposed plat for Dakota 5 at Bison Ridge is a part of the Bison Ridge HOA. In addition, the applicant's attorney has contacted the city and given a firm opinion that the proposed plat is not a part of the Bison Ridge HOA. The city does not enforce CC&Rs. The subject property meets all underlying zoning requirements of the PUD and Bison Ridge Master Plan, and therefore recommends approval of the preliminary development plan for Dakota 5 at Bison Ridge, subject to condition of approval specified by staff. Current zoning of the surrounding properties includes to the north, south, east, and west, PUD, which is Planned Unit Development. Current land uses of the surrounding properties includes to the north, the cottages at Bison Ridge, to the south, Bison Ridge Unit 2, to the east, Tatanka Resort Casitas at Bison Ridge, and to the west, Bison Ridge Resort Cabins Unit 1. Transmittal memos were sent to all affected agencies and no applicable comments were received. No public comment was received at the time that this staff report was prepared. However, staff received 2 letters from the Bison Ridge Homeowners Association after the close of business yesterday, and they have been included for you for your review. After reviewing the findings of fact, discussions with the applicant, the City of Shiloh zoning and land ordinances, the City of Shiloh general plan, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the submitted preliminary plat subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall comply with all applicable federal, state, and local requirements. 2, public sewer and water lines within the development shall have dedicated public easements. 3, drainage ways, including basins and culverts, will be designated as private drainage easements. And 4, all development at Dakota 5 at Bison Ridge shall be in substantial conformance to the submitted preliminary development plan and Bison Ridge master plan. Staff, as well as the applicant, are available for questions.
Thank you again, Ms. Spector-Cotter. I want to make sure that my colleagues have had an adequate opportunity to review the letters that were have been presented to us this evening. So we'll be quiet here for a few minutes while each of us have an opportunity to go through the letters, and then we'll proceed with the questions for staff and applicant. Okay, it's not my intent to cut anybody short. So has everybody had an opportunity to look things over? Okay, fine, then we will go ahead and proceed with questions for staff. Commissioner Bishop to begin with, and Commissioner Adams, and Commissioner Clark.
Actually, a question for the city attorney. So with the letters received from the homeowners association and the law office, can you shed any light into the situation from a legal perspective? Is there anything that we need to be concerned with? Because it seems like there's some contention, and I was wondering if you could offer your legal opinion.
Sure. I think as explained in the staff report, I think that first there was some question on whether this was actually included in the Bison Ridge HOA. Based on the research we've done, it was not annexed into the HOA. The city really doesn't get involved in, forcing people to join an HOA or not. I think letters that I get from the attorney and from the HOA is they're seeking cooperation for their HOA, but it's really nothing that the city can force them, Mr. Martinson, to do.
Thank you.
Commissioner Adams?
In the original plan, what was, I guess maybe this is for the developer, what was the original, what was originally going to be built in that area? Was this the original plan that you had, or have you changed it?
If you're going to address it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss.
We need you to come forward again, Mr. Martinson, please. Thank you.
Harry Martinson, 2051 Bison Ridge Trail. It was always the intention, it's zoned as part of the master plan, but it was not designated for any particular housing unit or housing type. So it just seemed appropriate that it is surrounded by similar size lots. In fact, these are a little larger than the lots that are adjacent on three of the sides. So it seemed like the way to finish off a property that is adjacent to Bison Ridge. And I did get a chance here before the meeting to talk to Mr. Eckhart about what my intentions were with the lots once they were developed. So I think I want to make that clear right now is that I certainly feel that they should, after the construction and development of those lots are done, that they should be annexed to the Bison Ridge Owners Association. The attorney that wrote the CCNRs, the attorney that did all the annexations, and there was no question in his mind that the property had never been annexed to the association. But that answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I can clarify, we've got the conceptual master plan for the Bison Ridge PUD on the overhead. The area that we are discussing this evening is a portion of this, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call it a parcel, although it's not identified as a parcel on the plan. The Dakota 5 is specifically this, kind of the left leg of the pants, if you envision it there. That parcel was identified on the original plan as commercial residential allowed. So the use of the property as residential does meet the underlying PUD requirements as established at the time that the PUD was put in place.
Commissioner Clark?
My question just goes to what Mr. Tregaskis was just speaking of. I was going to ask, what does this Dakota 5 do to the original, density, open space, and the number of lots that was approved with the PUD? I think, the PUD is designed to give flexibility to developers so that they can, make changes and alter as the, it's a long-term project, and the zoning is designed to give them that flexibility to change with market conditions and stuff like that. So I just wanted to see where this fits into, the original density and open space requirements. I think Mr. Martinson kind of alluded to it, that these are larger lots anyways from the ones that are across the street, but if you could just address that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. The original Bison Ridge PUD established maximum number of lots, established amount of open space, different things that were required as part of the overall development. As we know, the Bison Ridge development is not completely built out. There is substantial vacant property on the southern boundary, Bagnell Wash area, and adjacent to Fairway Park. The addition of the 5 lots would not push them over the maximum number of residential units that are allowed. They also, at this point, have more open space than what they were required to because of that undeveloped portion. As we go through, particularly as we start to get closer and closer to completion of the project, at what point that will be, we don't know. But that will become a little bit more critical for us to be looking at and making sure that they meet that. But at this point, they are not within that threshold that would cause them to be over that limit.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions for staff? Vice Chair Robertson?
Does Mr. Masterson's agreement to put this in the development or add it to the development, does that basically make these two letters moot?
We're looking at each other.
Okay.
Again, we don't enforce the CCNRs.
Okay.
Our understanding of the underlying concern is that we not have a pocket within the Bison Ridge development that is not subject to the CCNRs that everybody else is.
Right.
I think there's also a concern that you have an HOA that is participating in contributing towards costs, and you have the potential for 5 lots that would not be. I think Mr. Martinson's statement that they do intend on annexing in once these properties are sold, I think that probably addresses that concern. The author of one of the letters is here. He certainly could address that, I'm sure, if he felt necessary, so.
Okay. I'd like to ask him
Yes,
how
ma'am.
they feel,
Will you,
or her, him or her.
will you please come forward and identify yourself for the record, please? Thank you.
Chairman and commissioners and staff. My name is Meredith Eckhart, and I live at 1581 North Mustang Circle, and I live in Bison Ridge, and I am the secretary for the Bison Ridge Board of Directors.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Robertson?
Okay, I just wanted to find out now that you've had a time to speak with him, how are you feeling now about your letters?
Right, well, it just started, so the conversation just started. I wasn't part of it, but, of course, we would like to have everything come to an amenable agreement. Basically, upon transition from a developer-managed, developer-declarant-managed HOA to an homeowners managed HOA, there wasn't really time for the transition process to properly occur. So when it did occur, we did inquire from our management company whether or not the former sales officer, Mr. Martinson's residence, was included in the HOA, and we were provided with a confirmation that it indeed was, and Mr. Martinson was sent a welcome letter welcoming him to the HOA because as a developer, there was no requirement, of course, to pay HOA dues, but then as a homeowner, then that changed, and he's been paying his HOA dues, and the home that's listed for sale, if you look it up in the MLS, it also shows that it's part of the Bison Ridge HOA. So we, the board or the community, had no idea any of this was going on until Mr. Tregaskis was kind enough to call us and just give us a heads up that there was a request for parsing this land. The initial concern was that in the CCNRs, people aren't able just to parse their lots for probably obvious reasons. So that was of concern to us. So then as we dug into it, we found that, at least as of now, that there doesn't appear to be a annexation document. So that's kind of where we are today. So again, I guess the big concern being, and you mentioned it, is really having, our concern is having this island that's really in the center of the community as a planned development, because as you saw in the letters, we have a large annual budget to cover what basically our private roads. The only public road is the Bison Trail that leads in from the 260. Otherwise, everything else is private. So we're paying for road repairs, insurance, street lights, landscaping, plowing. I mean, any budget item you can think of, we're paying for it. So our concern was, one, that there would be this subdivision that may not necessarily look like the rest of Bison Ridge, because of course we want it to all look uniform and look like it all went together as a planned community that Mr. Martinson intended it to be, not this little island of, oh, and then there's this kind of thing. And then also, of course, having these people there would benefit whomever the new residents would be to be part of the HOA instead of being this little island unto themselves where they're surrounded by parks and ramadas and trails to the forest and all these other different amenities, et cetera, but they're relegated to this little area because the rest of it's private. So,
Okay, Meredith, do you understand, though, that that is not within our scope?
I do.
That we cannot legally say he has to?
Right, yeah, and we do
Okay.
understand that. We
Okay,
just,
very good.
You saw the letters. I won't
Okay,
take
yes,
you through
we
it
read the
again.
letters. Thank
I
you
know
so
guys wanna
much.
go.
We appreciate that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Any further questions for staff or applicant?
I just have one real quick one. So on this project, but everything has been, that he submitted today is in compliance with what the city and the plan and everything is up to date on that side of it.
That is correct, yes. That's it? Everybody comfortable? Okay. Any further public comment will be entertained at this moment, and seeing none, okay, then we'll bring it back to the commission for a motion. Vice Chair Robertson?
I move to approve the preliminary development plan for Dakota 5 at Bison Ridge, subject to the conditions and approval as specified by staff. Forward the recommendations to City Council.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second from Commissioner Bishop. Any further discussion?
I would just like to add that I hope that everything will work out so that everybody is comfortable.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That motion carries unanimously. Sir?
Thank you, Chairman. This has been scheduled for review by the City Council at their next regularly scheduled meeting. Again, that is a week from this evening.
All right.
Good luck, everyone.
Okay. Normally, we would open for call to the public, and seeing none, we'll dispense with the reading of the boilerplate, and we'll bring it back and forgive that, please.
Forgive what?
The phone.
I didn't hear anything.
All right, thank you
I
very
didn't hear
much.
anything.
Look for the amended minutes from our previous meeting. Everybody have a chance to look at those?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve them? All right, Commissioner Bishop, approved. We have a second? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those minutes are duly approved. And that brings us to our opportunity to offer input to our fellow citizenry. We'll start at the end with Commissioner Bishop.
Nothing to share, thank you.
Commissioner Adams.
Just remind everyone to be careful with the fire danger, the wind and everything. Just be careful out there.
Commissioner Behrens?
I think that the Sholo Days was a great success. I was down there. It looked like it was very well attended.
Commissioner Berry?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Commissioner Clark?
I just want to take an opportunity to thank Commissioner Barry and Vice Chair Roberts for letting me cheat off their packets. I usually rely upon my iPad, and for whatever reason, I couldn't pull up my fault for relying on technology. And so I appreciate my fellow commissioners allowing me to cheat tonight. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Point taken, sir. Yeah. Vice Chair Robertson?
I would just like to echo Mr. Barron's report on Sholo Days. It was wonderful. And all of the derby down the deuces and et cetera, et cetera. And I also want to take this time to thank all the fathers out there and all the gentlemen who act as fathers. and say Happy Father's Day. Thank you.
Okay. And I again, mea culpa for, I thought the volume was as low as it could go, but obviously not low enough, so apologies. From now on, I'll just leave it in the truck. Mr. Tregaskis.
Just one item, fire danger, is always kind of on our minds this time of year, particularly as the temperatures rise and the wind picks up. Announce that as of Friday morning at 8 o'clock, so this upcoming Friday, the city of Show Low will be entering into Stage 1 fire restrictions. We do have information available on our city website as to specifically how that will impact you. I encourage everyone to take a look at that, and please just follow the directions that are outlined there. So appreciate that.
All right. That we will consider this meeting adjourned.
Good job.
Hey, Kim, can you put in there that I don't put in the word cheat? I don't need an ethics complaint to. I don't need Ron Wood Googling that.
Kim, let's just leave these files here. We'll get them in the morning.
His fellow
Don't need to haul them out
commissioners'
to the car to haul them back.
paperwork.
Okay.
Where's my minutes? All right,